you guys can.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh man, she is so loud. All right. So yeah, so that's the basic blueprint of Wise Crowds. My question, situation, or challenge. So I am running a 3-month Liberating Structures learning journey. I have a bunch of people, like 20 people have pre-registered, and I'm trying to fill 12 slots for this learning journey. And in particular, what I want to do is focus the learning journey on event organization. So how can you organize, plan, and host a very participatory event? It'll be split up into 6 2.5-hour sessions that themselves will be split into over the course of 3 months. And I guess the question I have is, when you guys think about this topic of organizing and hosting stuff, like what are the structures, patterns, what ways to organize this learning journey make sense to you guys? Yeah. And maybe how do I sell the shit out of it too? Let's get lots of people that want to pay lots of money to participate. Let's throw that into the mix. Clarifying questions.
Jerry, could you go one level deeper and just talk a little bit more about what it is you're trying to organize? Because it almost sounded like an open space in a way. Or maybe that's just what I picked up on early in what you were saying.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, so what are we trying to do? Well, there's a lot of people that are organizing events. And what we're trying to do is offer those like aspiring event organizers a sort of like extended boot camp, like a real no joke, like this is what you need to learn in order to do that damn thing, to either organize the event, but of course to host the participatory and sort of community space. Anybody else?
So is that the subject matter of your next 3 months program?
Yeah, the Liberating Structures learning journey is going to focus on event organizing as the topic of the exploration, to make it a little bit more tangible, and to sort of put a boundary around it.
And did I hear you say something like you have 20 pre-registered per people and you only have 12 seats?
Yeah, we've got a bunch of people that have sort of filled out an application, and we've got 12 seats for each learning journey. So we're a little oversubscribed, and yet I don't know if all of those 20 will show up, or if any, how many of those guys are still actually want to commit. It's really easy to fill in a form. It's less easy to like dedicate 3 hours a week for the next 3 months.
And when they fill the form, is there like something to make them commit, like paying something or?
No, I've collected no payments from anyone. I have asked them what they want to pay, and I have also included a question that in the form like outlines the commitments that are expected to participate.
And this is around event organization, you said, right?
Yeah.
How to help people better plan and execute on events. Yeah,
with a specific sort of twist to both organize the event, but the events themselves are participatory in nature. So we're not talking about like how to organize a conference where everybody shows up and, you know, listens to a keynote. Like we're organizing an event where we're presumably going to use the liberating structures with people.
I love it.
And are you asking for support on how to get organized with the co-facilitator, the co-host, or like the content of the learning journey, or both?
I think I'm asking more about the content of the learning journey. So I'm interested what pings for you guys. I mean, I've got lots of ideas, but I'm just curious what you guys are sort of what's salient for you. And yeah. Anybody else?
Well, if you want to do this on 6 times 2.5 hours, what do you expect of us? Because usually we have to come up with some kind of string, right? Liberating structure string. So it looks like it's going to be a long string.
Yeah. So maybe so 2 questions to narrow the scope. One might be the first session. Like what would you suggest is like a good string for that first session? And slash or like an overarching like series of points to pay attention to, something like that. What might be the topics for each 6 sessions and what might be the first session? That would be amazing.
And you also wanted something about funds, right? Like increasing the number of people who pay.
Yeah. In the biggest scheme of things, yeah, totally. Right now, 75% of the registrations or the applications are asking for a scholarship. Ideally, we'd like to move up to the paying market. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, why is this course important for you to give? Is it for your career advancement or for?
Donna asked the power question. Yeah, why does it matter? The power question. How do I narrow scope? So I want more people to learn how to use liberating structures ultimately. So the game plan is by focusing on event organization, that feels like a really tangible place where if I can give people liberating structures and help them organize events, and at those events they use liberating structures, that feels like a lot of additional seeds being planted. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna dip out. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
So I can say I participated in the first version of this learning journey that Jeremy is organizing. So I think my mind is kind of already thinking of what he did. I think it would be nice to hear fresh ideas, but if you have questions about how it looked like, then.
Yeah, I think it'd be very good. Tell us how it looked like, because it's a learning journey, right?
Well, but I think it's also interesting if you come up with fresh ideas of, okay, this is the structure or the general structure that I would suggest, because otherwise we come yeah, we narrowed down too much, maybe. Or
So how was it?
So like the general structure was like you explained the eco cycle. So we used it as like a general pattern for it, and yeah. So it was. I mean, I don't remember exactly, but it was focusing on maybe purpose first. Then in the end, there was this practice, right? Like, so we had to practice what we had learned before together with other people. So each of us was responsible for a certain part of like a recital that we did in public in the end. I don't remember the details of the second and third session. But yes, it's still like
Okay, guys,
So-
any ideas?
Well, for me, like if one good topic is whatever it is, right? Tap into something that's going to really hit on like an emotional part for everybody, you know, some sort of emotion. We've all been in gatherings or meetings that are really brutal, right? And so how can you really tap into an example of, you know, less than desirable meeting or gathering that was a waste of time, right? And so you're kind of engaging people and helping them understand, you know, that there are alternatives to gatherings, right? So there was, you know, I'm thinking about the first session that Jeremy mentioned, like what would be a good like first start when you get this group of people together, and it's to, you know, like I said, tap into something that might resonate with them in terms of like being in, you know, part of bad meetings or bad gatherings. Get them engaged in ways where they remember being disengaged, if that makes sense.
For me, the thing is that liberating structure are participatory. So it's anything, you know, almost anything can work because whether you're exploring. So the idea would be to, well, let's try to see what. Well, it's interesting the way you think, because you think that we spend a lot of time in places that we're not really engaged in, and to be engaged. So that might be a nice way to start this notion of engagement. If we find so like you could have so what kind of structure would you use to show and to introduce the notion of engagement? Because, you know, you have a large choice.
Yeah. Well, I think just to elaborate, where I was going with that was when he gets to that gathering of people, right? It's how can they might be there to learn about ways to get engaged, ways to leverage liberating structures, right? And the concept of liberating structures might not be understood by everyone. So what I was saying was like you could tap into that feeling everybody's had when they've been in a meeting or a gathering where they're disengaged, right? So got them sitting up and going, oh yeah, I've been there. I know what that's like. And then that's where like you start to blend in liberating structures over the rest of the time of the gathering, right? So I'm just saying, like, try to find that connection, a common connection with everybody. right? That they remember, they recall, or that they felt, right? Where they were disengaged. And oh, by the way, there are these things called liberating structures that promote engagement, right? Promote all voices, etc.
For me, I have another
Mm.
concern.
Yeah,
like
it's
another
interesting.
angle.
Like the
Yeah, I have another angle. Did I understand correctly that Jeremy is a bit concerned about the participation? Like, how could we make sure that there will be 12 confirmed people who want to do the journey? Was this one of his concerns, or?
Well, I think that basically we narrowed the question to the first
yeah, I
question.
think like what, but then not everyone participated.
Hmm.
Overarching topics. But Rob, there's a lot of liberating structures that can actually look into the idea of engage and disengagement.
Yeah.
So when you're saying, okay, let's start, your proposition is like, let's start by reminding ourselves of what it felt like. Okay, so that we would keep this sort of feeling throughout the 6 weeks, basically. Remembering it's one of the dimension of what we want to do when we organize stuff. So now we have to come up with a string.
Donna, I think you had something you were going to mention.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, when we
I thought you had something you were going to add.
No, for me, I was just wondering, is Jeremy's first interest getting confirmed group of 12 people, or is it the course content? What is his first priority for this? I just could not tell.
For me, it was content.
Hmm.
It's content for the first session, and it's content for, he was talking about an arching sort of sense of topics. So far we have one, which is engagement. What else we can say that makes an event, how do you say, memorable? So we have engagement. We don't want to be bored. We want to participate. So how do we participate? Participation is another one, I think.
And the sense of being heard and seen, and somewhere like the best gatherings for me is where I could have safety net of people, connections that I can tap into after. That's the success to me.
You know what I think? It's funny because either we go for topics or we go for liberating structures. And listening to you, I was thinking that what the one way he could organize this is by really focusing on one particular structure. Well, he gives the introduction, to the 33 blah, but then, he picks up 6, let's say, or interesting structures that correspond to. So in the first session, he asks everybody what they think about a good event. Okay, and he collects, and everybody collects their ideas. So one is engagement, the other one is heard, seen, and you said something like that. A third one could be nice dialogues. Could be action dialogue. That's another structure. And so now we have a puzzle of liberating structures, right? That when put together, not in necessarily the same event, but put together, just juxtaposed together, can actually give people a sense of what and how organize an event that is worthwhile. So the first session could be things like what structures do you think we could use for engagement? That is nice. That is because you have almost all of them. You know, impromptu networking. If the prompt is what can you recall a time where you were excited having been in an event? But I mean, maybe we can find some nice ones.
Yeah. I mean, I could pick any of them, right? You're talking about engagement. So you pick like any liberating structure. I mean, what now, what comes to mind?
Okay.
Yeah, just out of the blue, like what needs to change, right? About the way people meet and dialogue. It could be, you know, anything like that. I mean, because we spend a lot of time remote. We spend a lot of time in person, much more now over the past 3 years. So like, what has changed, right? What have we learned over the last 3 years that could be a big part of the theme?
Yeah. So that's one question. That's one, what needs to change. The other, of course, is what have you experienced that can give you a hint of how it works well, when it works well.
Yeah.
So that's another structure.
Yeah, like I said earlier, right? Tap into the bad examples, right? That people have had, just to really kind of hit on that, like to get people engaged because you're hitting them emotionally, right? But then to your point, on the flip side, right? Success stories are a huge part of this. People love to hear about case studies and success stories and where these things work and how they transform the way that people meet in dialogue. So I love that. It's a another great theme, if you will.
So it would be something like appreciative inquiries.
Yeah, yes, perfect. There you go.
So we have one then. What yeah. Okay, so that's already two. Because you have the W3, you know, what no, so what. I quite like this idea of then so what could be another aspects of meetings and inquiry that would be not inquiry, but meetings and events and so forth. That could be a good introduction to the whole, how do you say, journey.
And all these people that'll be in attendance are going to go on that learning journey for that certain amount of time, right?
Yeah. But I was thinking about hosting, you know, he was talking about hosting. And that is also something that is nice because hosting, so far it's like, you know, we looked at it from the point of view of the person that is going to attend to it. But what he's also going to do is he's going to talk about hosting. Like, what do you do to host? What is the role of the host? What does the host do? So there could be also something about hosting.
Yeah.
And now if you take,
Do you need a coach, right? Is there going to be points in the learning journey where he might need, an independent facilitator, right? Where does his voice start to get stale? At what point of the learning journey? If I'm just saying, it's potentially could happen, right? Where voice gets a little stale. How do you bring some new energy in, or some, a little bit of a fresh point of view or perspective?
yeah, that's also a point. Yeah, absolutely. And now talking about it, it's like this 3 week. It's funny because he's going to talk about an event, organizing events, and he is organizing an event of 6 weeks. So is that a good? It's like, it's an interesting thing because it's a long event. It's not, again, they can be, you might want to have them work on different types of events.
Right.
It's not the same thing when you go to, when you organize something with 10,000 people, and when you do it with 100 or 20.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe in the first part, because I think what's the time here? I think we can also we can maybe use heard, seen, and we would have to give him a sort of a structure to start the journey.
Yeah.
So one is easier because it's the one that everybody knows. It can be impromptu network, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 for all. That's nice. 1, 2 for all, because it'll, around this notion of engagement, and the prompt would be around this idea, right? Then we can have appreciative inquiry, which is which is also an interesting thing when you recall something good. And then we can have something that starts to look into the dimensions of great events. And maybe one can be heard, seen, and I always forget the last one.
Respected, maybe.
Heard, seen, and respected.
And this is, just to clarify, this is a learning journey of liberating structures, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it goes back to like what I was picking up from him when he was explaining his topic, right? Like my mind immediately went to open space, right?
Yeah, it's true.
How can you can create an open space where, you want to talk about like ultra engagement, right? You can create a marketplace full of different topics from the people who were there going through the journey with him, right? It could be, and I know it's a small amount of people, so maybe, I believe it's a small amount of people, so I don't know, open space might not be enough people for that, but any variation of open space, something like that could be interesting.
Yeah, in other words, building the agenda with the people.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
and that would be cool, because that would be like super. Yeah, that's a cool. That's new as well, because a lot of new conferences have no agenda.
Yeah.
And the idea was to say, well, we're going to build an agenda because we have a journey together, but we're going to build it together.
Yeah. Now imagine that, right? Like he's calling it a learning journey, right?
Yeah.
So is he going towards a specific outcome, right? Or does he have like a North Star in mind? Meaning like we're going in this general direction. If it's more of a North Star, he could be really radical and leverage open space, to your point, Philip, where we're not quite sure where we're going, but we're going to figure it out ourselves.
That's right.
So that could be very radical. It could be risky, but it could be very radical, but it could be an important part of that learning journey, right? Where, hey, everybody in attendance is defining the agenda, defining the journey, right?
Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I think he can pull it off. I mean, not too many people can pull it off, but I think he can do it.
Donna, what are you picking up here?
Yeah, liberating structures is all new for me. So
Ah,
I'm just listening a lot. Like I don't really know the tools and I don't know how it works. So I'm listening to learn at this moment. Yeah.
Philip, I was just thinking about this too. I don't remember if Jeremy had mentioned whether it would be in person or hybrid. I feel like maybe he said hybrid or not hybrid, fully remote.
I would assume it's fully remote.
Yeah.
In fact, we didn't ask him, or we forgot to ask him. But I would just assume that it is remote because he might have people from various places, actually.
So to keep things fresh and interesting, there's this tool out there. It's called Wello, W-E-L.
Oh, yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been recently introduced to Wello, and it's an interesting tool to use for, remote gatherings. It's just got some capabilities and some dynamics that are different than Zoom, for example.
Yeah. You have to tell Dana what it looks like.
So it almost looks like a video game, Donna, right? So imagine you're looking at a screen and it's almost like the layout of the house. You've got this room over here, you've got the larger room over here, right? But each room is designed very differently. Like one room could have a circle of chairs where everybody's facing each other. Another room could be like a rectangular shaped, like farm style table. And then there's like over here in this area, it's like a one-on-one setting where there's 2 chairs and a coffee table. And then over here outside, there's a fire pit with like 6 chairs around it. So you've got all these different rooms that have a different engaging dynamic, right? Where people can dialogue. And like your breakout rooms, like you can go and join any room any way you want. Like, so if Jeremy were to put us all in breakout rooms right now, if there were like 10 people in here, you could pick and choose where you want to go. I want to go sit over in a fireplace right now, or I want to go outside in the fire pit. Or, hey, I haven't been in this room before, I'm going to go over here. So it's like a next level of remote engagement, remote learning, remote meetings, things like that.
Wow. Nice.
It could be just different. We've been on Zoom calls for 3 years, right? So sometimes Zoom gets stale. You can create an exciting new experience for everybody by using something like Wello.
Yeah, absolutely. That's and it has on top of everything, it has a sort of an event-like shape because of all the different places you can be, and because you can see, because everybody, you have to understand that you can see everything you see, right, Dana? So you can see the entire scene, right? And then you go where you want.
Is it free or is it with subscription or?
I guess it's not free, but I don't know. I think that
And does everybody need to have the application to be part of the meeting? Like, do they have to download it and have subscription to be able to enjoy it? Or just the person who invites you can have the subscription? How does it work?
I'm not sure. I actually went through a training once, and I was a trainee, so I don't know. I just clicked the link like Zoom, and I ended up in there. So it's much like Zoom. It's web-based. There's no downloads or anything like that. One thing that jumped out at me is the audio is much better. You hear people so much better on Wello. So
okay, guys, shall we Shall we invite Jeremy to come and tell us what he thought about it?
Mhm.
So yeah, kind of exhausted my immediate thoughts.
So Jeremy,
Dig. So there's a couple things that I think I can really work with. I really like the idea of building the agenda of the training itself with the people, making it, bringing in the design exercise into the training space. That can be a little hard for people to like maintain in their brains, because like, what are we talking about? We're training the thing, we're designing the thing we're inside of. Oh my God. But I think it's a really important element of the game. I also like the provocation of like when my voice gets stale. So that sort of like really inspires me to think like, oh, okay, I know a lot of people in the liberating structures community. Could I tap someone each time to come and co-facilitate and co-host, just so that they're getting, like, they're also in the context of this thing that I'm hosting, seeing a lot of different flavors. Because, you know, my style is my style, loud, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, there's a lot of different approaches to take for these things. So those are the parts that I thought, that's really, really interesting. I also like that around that build your own agenda, creating sort of a backlog of topics around engagement. So that might be one of the ways, is like, hey, what are the parts of engagement? And then once we have that sort of list of parts we could do, then looking at, okay, for a particular structure that might help you upgrade that one part, here you go. And that makes it kind of makes it tangible. Dope. Yeah, that's what's up.
Interesting stuff, Jeremy. How are you? I think it's for another minute. I'm just really curious.
Sure.
Is this an event?
What's that?
The people in attendance, right? Will they plan to charge them, or is this something that you're taking them on a journey as part of like a larger learning experience for you?
I mean, yes, both, hopefully. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully both.
The reason why I asked is because it sounded interesting to me.
Yeah, the definitely the game plan. I mean, from my perspective, what I'm trying to do is make myself as obsolete as possible. Right. So for sure, I can host a lot of spaces, but that puts a lot of burden on me. But if I can distribute the skills of hosting spaces, then there's way more spaces than I could ever possibly create myself. And that feels also proper. I notice as well, I was talking to Donna earlier, and I was like in like maximum like liberating structures fucking like inspiration state, and I'm just like spitting shit out at a level that is like, unless you know the shit that I'm talking about, it's got to be incomprehensible. So it also feels like a good way of like ensuring that I'm comprehensible to some people if I give them enough knowledge to be able to like, oh, okay, that's what all of these things mean. Then we can keep up. Then I'm not losing folks. So, and that's the bigger practice as well. It's just to increase the participation, the ability to use liberating structures with some skill in lots of different places.
Yeah.
Well, dope, gang. Well, if nobody else has any has a help request, then I would say that whenever it's over, it's over. I mean, I can talk all day about the learning journey and about any aspect of liberating structures. If there's something more like, I don't know, less tangible that anybody wants to spit raps about, or of course, get on with your life, whatever you like.
Yeah, I'll throw something out there. It's not a consulting, if you will. It's not a wise crowd. It's not a troika or anything like that. But has anybody here had some experience attending an open space conference? And if so, I'd love you to explain what the experience was like, right? The reason why I'm asking is I've been inspired a lot lately, potentially doing something like that within my work environment.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'd love to hear just anyone's experiences with them. What it looked like, what did the marketplace look like, things like that.
Have either of you guys been to like an unconference or an open space before?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to take a couple minutes and just tell me about it, I mean, I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, if you have time.
Well, one thing is to prepare it well and invite well. In other words, not to surprise your people with just like, you know, they walk into the room and you say, we're going to do open space. You know, you have to have an invitation. You have to have, it's a wonderful participatory structure. Depending on what and the number of people you have, we had 120 people, which is medium size, by the way. It's not a huge amount. And there is some riffs you can do on that that are absolutely great because okay, people work on things, you know, there's some topics, people, it's in the hands of the people that are doing it, right? There's no agenda. The agenda is on the fly, right? And so I did it in a one-day thing. I think that you can do it over several days. I'd be interested to know what several days is because you can now have long pauses, which is also interesting, I think. I was thinking about that because somebody, when was it? What was it? Yeah, they were organizing a workshop, and in this workshop, they it was not an open space workshop, but it was a workshop, and they included just spending time together, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so they said, well, you're 4 or 5, so the prompt is just spend the time together, do whatever you want. Nothing to do with the subject of the workshop, nothing to do with results, nothing. There's some things that you can invent, I think. And the marketplace at the end is so we had two levels, okay. So we had lots of room, right? That's what I'm trying to say. We had lots of room because you have lots of noise, you have lots of activities because, you know, when you have 100 people that decide to do an agenda of, let's say, 5 or 6 or 7 different topics, there's lots of energy, lots of things. And then when you have the marketplace afterwards, then it becomes really beautiful. And then you can do whatever. In our case, it was to go all the way to the project level, okay? Because that's another thing that you can do in open space. You can have a level of granularity that you decide that is appropriate to your purpose. And then that's it. People voted. So first of all, you vote with your feet, which is sort of the rule. You know, Dana, I don't know if you know the structure, but basically people propose something, Okay, and then the other people respond to it. So you say, I'm going to work around this subject, and people say, well, me too, I'm interested, me too, I'm interested. So you all work, and then you have, and imagine that this happens several times around different topics, and then you have the results of it that you publish on the walls of the thing, so people can actually see what happened elsewhere, right? And then you can because it was one company, they voted on and it was a tremendously generative exercise. So that, Rob, for you, it could be very interesting if that's one of your purpose, to generate new stuff.
Yeah. Do you bring the people together based on that invitation?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't do that, and we didn't do that, but that was the big mistake. You have to invite them, absolutely.
So you put a structured invitation together and say, we're going to get together and do this like open space, right?
That's
and
right.
explain what an open space is, and say like, here's like the context, which is in the invitation. And then you get there, right?
Mhm.
And presumably that's where you start to generate the different agenda and the different topics. And then once those topics are defined, then there's like breakouts, like where there's different groups that get together and discuss those topics, but they're all related to some invitation, some problem to be
Yes.
solved.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to have a purpose. It can be reorganization, it can be strategy, it can be anything you want.
Yeah.
And what is important is something that Jeremy often says, is like there's some rules, right? There's some principles, let's say, which are very important to keep in mind and to state from the very beginning, which is you vote with your feet. In other words, nobody forces you to be at any point in time and space during this whole workshop, right? That's one of them. And everybody who is there is enough. I'm not saying that very well, but the idea is that those who show up, they are, there's no, how do you say, there's no idea that we're missing someone. From the invitation that you made, everybody that came are the right people at the right place. And
Is there or does it just end when it ends? Is there a start and an end time, or does it just end when it ends?
No, there's a starting point, and then there is a, well, I guess you can do whatever you want with it, but we had an end point as well.
Okay. So that's like when you say you vote with your feet, that's what you mean. Like you move around according to where your energy is, right?
Right.
And
yeah,
just whenever, but it sounds like you have to have some structure,
yeah,
which is okay.
You do, because I mean, if we go into the technicalities, you actually draw the agenda on the wall, right? So you know exactly who is where, and what's the topic, and what's the time, and so you know that.
Yeah. Excellent.
Literally, you build. This is why it was such a good idea. This idea of open space for Jeremy's program, because he can structure his 6 weeks like that.
Yeah. That is pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
I would say definitely go for it. I've been using open space, like really. I mean, I use a lot of all of my agile coaching is based off of liberating structures, and open space is hands down like the tool that always slaps. Like if you just throw an open space at it, shit starts to move around, and the vibe of the space starts to reconfigure. So I've used open space for sprint reviews, like that's
what?
Like for sprint reviews. So
really?
I mean, it's the same basic program. You know, you go through all the teams, and they say, hey, you know, this is the stuff that we want to address on our sprint review. This is who we'd like to invite to show up. You go around that circle. You go, okay, so you know, these are the people that are keen. All right, let's create the marketplace and the agenda, and then boom, you can condense the action of all the sprint reviews in like a half-day session, which also encourages the stakeholders to show up, because they know like that's the space where all of the conversations are going to be happening. You know, I can't go to all of them. nobody expects me to go to all of them, even though they would like me to go to all of them in some instances. But this is the choices, and these are the choices, and I can coordinate with them to try and maximize my participation for the things that are the most interesting and the most relevant. Organizational change, transformation, same basic thing. Like, hey, how should we reorganize this stuff? Create a fucking marketplace, let everybody go nuts. I mean, there's entire actual both organizational transformation. There's a thing called open space beta, but there's also a scaling methodology. I'll say that with a big quote. The fast agile scaling technique that is basically an open space with a product owner, so to speak, right? So, and that works for like 150 to 200 people. You have a product owner, and then basically, instead of doing all of the other things, you just run an open space, a half-day open space, literally every other day. So every 2 days, you spend a half day in an open space, and that's, forget your teams, forget your, just do it. I've also done unconferences, which is like week-long open space. Like, you just show up, and every day you create a marketplace, and you set the agenda for the day. And you can, of course, be like, you can think about it as like tightly time bound and like strictly organized, or you can think of it as loose and as quote unquote emergent as you want to be, right? So the principles, again, like Philip was saying, whoever shows up are the right people. Whenever it starts is the right time. Wherever it happens is the right place. If you put it on the agenda here and it moves around and ends up popping up, somewhere else, then hey, that was the right place and the right time for that to happen. Whenever it's over, it's over. And whatever happens was the only thing that could have happened. So, just sort of lean into the messiness of it and, let things self-organize themselves. So definitely, if you're thinking about doing an open space, do it. There's all types of like big brain nerds that specialize in open space that you can hang out with at the Open Space Institute. They're always hosting open spaces. There's like almost always something on their calendar. Like you can just drop into. And what I notice is their vibe is super chill. Like very, very chill. Very relaxed, very like just let it happen, and that's cool.
You said it's Open Space Institute?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you for that, guys. That was helpful. That helped fill in some blanks I've had on this thing.
Dope. Well, cool. Well, that's one consultation plus some wraps on open space. That's dope. Well, I will thank you guys for your time, attention, and energy, and hope to see you in the next one.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, everybody.
Safe
Have a
travel.
nice evening.
Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Yes.